And good day and welcome to the next edition of the FFS Podcast. And we are absolutely delighted to be joined by a real Welsh icon and legend of the track, Jamie Baulch. Now, a man with more medals than I've given out as an event organizer. Like, you know, he's got a fair collection, ranging from the '96 Atlanta all the way through, I think, to 2003, which that's his major competing sort of range, which we'll talk about in a bit. And he's so much more than that as well. You know, Jamie's an ambassador for a number of charities and a businessman, and keeps himself very active. And what I want to know is, which I will get to, is how he still weighs the same as he did when he was competing, because we are the same age. You're actually a little bit older. You're actually about 11 months older than me, Jamie. So
47 now, 47, old man.
Yeah, I'm about 20 kilos heavier than I was back in the 90s. So we'll get to that. And obviously, joining us as well as usual is with me is Fraser Watson. Now,
afternoon, Jay.
I'm just going to say with Fraser that he is renowned for his speed. At his highlight, he was probably the quickest man in Pembrokeshire rugby, and I don't, that's genuine. But now he's not even the quickest man on this podcast. So
no, mighty have fallen pretty quickly around you.
So how are things, Jamie, and how are you coping with the current situation and keeping yourself motivated and really what have you been up to?
Yeah, you know what? I'm great. I feel good. I'm gonna tell you straight. I've loved lockdown, man. I've loved it. I tell you why. It's in this modern day, and everything's just so busy, and we're just all running around. And at the end of the day, before lockdown, you almost think, well, what am I doing? I'm running around. I'm doing stuff I shouldn't be doing, and I think this lockdown for me personally has just made me sort of reassess everything and work out what life's all about. Spending time with my family, which has been fantastic, and just slowing down. I do yoga anyway. I've been managing to do 4 sessions of yoga a week in lockdown, which is unheard of. I mean, being an ex-sportsman, I'm the stiffest person on the planet, you know what I mean? And you guys will know what it's like when you get into that little bit older, how stiff you get, especially when you've been doing sports. So it's just enabled me just to slow down a bit. So yeah, all in all, I feel great,
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I think you're saying there has been the benefits definitely of the lockdown to have time to reassess really and spend time away from our hectic lives. But I'm just going to, before we go into talking about things, I want to just take you back really to 1996. I'm going to start there in Atlanta in the Olympics. Back in those days, when we were young lads, there was about 5 channels on the telly. The whole world would have been watching that as an event. The Olympics is still massive today and still a massive brand. But back in those days, I mean, I think almost everyone would have been tuned in to watching that, and you're there, on the biggest stage in the world, really. And I sort of just touch on that really, and on the night and that race. But your nerves and things like that. I mean, I've done like relay in school on a grass track, and with no one watching at all, and I'm so nervous I'm going to drop the baton or something. So just thinking, how, as a young lad out there, and we'll start there. We'll start at that point, Well,
it's funny, I genuinely mean this, is, you say about, the races that you would have done when you were a kid, and, my first race was just as important as my last race. And, when you're on that in the Olympic final, yeah, you're nervous. There's a billion people watching you on TV, all your family and friends, it's all over the globe. But yeah, that was quite extreme. But, I was just as nervous as I was in sports day when I was 10 years old. You know what I mean? Because it's the same thing. It's just a level, of wanting to kick people's butts and wanting to win the race. And, I genuinely mean that. I remember racing in Cumbrian Stadium in 1980, a long, long time ago. and it was called the Mini Olympics, and it was an inter-schools competition. And when I was lined up doing the 100 meters, I was really terrified. You know, I was like Lord Farquhar from Shrek. I was the shortest athlete out there, you know, and I was racing. I just remember some guy, he must have been like 6 foot, and he was like 10 years old, 11 years old, whatever. And I was scared, you know. So, you know, yes, the Olympics, to everyone else who hasn't been there, seems like a real daunting feat, but it's all stepping stones. And, you know, your nerves at whatever stage of athletics you get to always remains the same. So, yeah, the Olympics, 96, I was 23 years old, sharing with the athlete from Manchester who now lives in Wales for the last 20 years, Darren Campbell, a good friend of mine. So you can imagine what me and him were like around the Olympic Village. I mean, 23 years old, getting let loose. And just a little insight, the swimmers are the ones. They're the worst. They're the worst. I'm going to say no more. Because I don't know who's going to be watching this, but they're dreadful, those swimmers. And, you know, it's a great thing. You know, the Olympics in 96 were in Atlanta in America, and you know what the Americans are like. They love to do it big and large and be better than everyone else, or seem to be better than everyone else. And, yeah, it was just an amazing moment in my career to not only go to an Olympics. It's one thing going to an Olympics. It's another thing going to an Olympics and being on for a medal. You know, I think it's 10, 20,000 athletes go to an Olympics, but it's not many people who come home with medals. So we entered that race in the 4x400 meter relay, which we were pretty much due to get a medal. We were one of the fastest teams in the world that year. You had America, obviously, they're always a powerhouse. You had Jamaica, you had Poland, you had some serious talent out there. But that year in 96, I mean, just to give you a little example, before that race, I came fourth in the British Championships, fifth in the British Championships, which was crazy. Fourth, I came fourth in the British Championships. And I didn't even manage to compete at the Olympics as an individual, because I came fourth and they only have 3 spots. Well, that time in the British Championships, which I came fourth in, would have got me 5th in the Olympic final. So just to show you the speed which we were running at, you know, home soil. There's never been a race since, or I don't think it'll be one in a long time, which you're going to have a quartet of you know, athletes, 5 or 6 of us actually, who were going to run those sort of times again. So I was obviously disappointed I didn't make the individual team, but I was obviously delighted to have made the Olympics and get there. And it's nothing like when you get the letter, an A4 letter comes through the post, and you open it up. And I was living with my mum and dad at the time, and it said Jamie Baulch, you are accordingly invited to represent Great Britain in the 4x400 meter relay. I mean, that moment as a moment in my career was, you know, because we all want to go to the Olympics. I don't care what sport you do. You know, you even chat to the footballers or anyone like that. I remember Craig Bellamy was documented saying that he loved playing football in the Olympics, you know, because everyone wants to go to an Olympics, you know. And so it was brilliant. I mean, one of the best moments of my career, which it was. And we made it through to the final of that Olympic Games. 100,000 people in the stand, millions and millions of people watching on TV. And I've got to tell you this story, right? I know I'm just talking now, but I've got to tell you a story. It's a real good story. Yeah, I'll just keep rambling on. And but it's this one moment, right? So it was Ewan Thomas for Wales on first leg, myself on second leg, Mark Richardson on third leg, Roger Black on fourth leg. We're in lane 5 and the American team are in lane 4. And the race starts and Ewan Thomas has an amazing leg. He's running around the track and I'm watching him going down the back straight. And I am nervous. My heart is pumping. And he's coming around the track, going around the second turn. He comes up the home straight and he gives me the relay baton. And this was my turn to shine in the Olympics. And I'm running around the bend for Great Britain like that in the Olympic final, running around the first turn. The American guy inside me runs past me around that first curve. And as he runs past me, he goes, "Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah." He's talking to me. As he's
Alvin Harrison, isn't he?
Yeah, Alvin Harrison.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you cheeky, you know what I mean? How cheeky is that? Like, nobody prepares you for somebody talking to you like that. So we go around the bend, and we've got 300 meters to go, and he was about this far away, you know, in front of me, about 2-3 meters in front of me. And I thought, I'm going to get you now. And I ran as fast as I could running down the back straight. And I meet like that, like road runner. And if you ever see video footage, you can see me meeting him, and you can see Alvin like looking at me as if to say, who's this guy? And the crowd went crazy because I went past the American. Handed the relay baton over to Richardson, gave it over to Roger Black, and we came second in that race. The Americans broke the world record. We broke the British, European and Commonwealth record that day, which still stands. Yeah. So we still hold the British, European and Commonwealth record, which is 24 years old now. And an amazing moment. You know, nothing can ever sort of compete with that moment as a sportsman for me. You know, to get a medal at the Olympics is just phenomenal, you know.
Obviously, there was the unbelievable.
Just a quick thing there, just to say, I'm glad you mentioned that story because I had it down there. I made an urban myth that there was a bit of sledging going on. So
no, I had that down as well. Yeah.
Proper. Proper, you know, yeah, that's it.
Good to hear from you. Yeah, go on, Fraser.
Back to that. You know, obviously, there was the unbelievable high of an Olympic silver medal, Jamie. But was it bittersweet in a way? I know that sounds a silly thing to say when you set a British record, which still stands to this day. But that 4x4 rivalry, as Fintan mentioned earlier, between Britain and America became one of almost the iconic duels of the early part of that decade in athletics. I think if you grew up in Britain watching athletics, we all remembered the Chris Akabusi image when won gold in Tokyo in '91. Obviously, the Americans had Michael Johnson, I think, then in '92, if I remember rightly, they struck back. You had that duel in '96 where there was a belief that you could beat them. The Americans were favourite, but you could be. And then, of course, you had '97 Athens, which will maybe come into later, which provided a bittersweet moment for you. But we'll go in. But going back to '96 for now, amidst the unbelievable high, was there slight disappointment that you didn't get gold?
Yeah, you know, well, I got my medal here, by the way. So there's the medal I actually won that day. I thought I'd get it out of the cabinet. Yeah. So my Olympic silver medal, and it's really heavy, by the way. When I first put it on, I thought, flipping, that's heavy. To be perfectly honest with you, you know, to say how it is, the Americans had a better team. You know, they had the fastest team on the planet. You know, they had. You know, America has always had a lot of strength in depth. So we, in '96, were pretty happy with that. You know, it would have been nice to have beaten them, but, you know, I think if all four of us were here on this thing now, we'd have gone, yeah, sportsman, yeah, we want to win. You always want to win when you go on the track. But being realistic, I think it was a tall order. And I know you're going to come on to '97 and what's gone on after that. So just to quickly touch upon '97, the year later, we generally thought we could win. We trained. We were a stronger team. We had more confidence. Not that we weren't competent in '96, but you know, that winter we all got down and went really deep. You know,
I remember the Roger Black interview post the race in '97, and he was clearly disappointed. And I think whoever was interviewing him, I can't recall who it was at the time, touched upon that you hear the World Championship silver medal, you know, why are you disappointed? He said, because we had silver in the Olympics last year, but we've come further than that now. As a team, we felt we'd come further, and we felt this was our race today, which ultimately it was 2 decades down the line, but we won't go into that. But at the time, as you say, that was the real disappointment out of the two, was it?
Yeah, definitely. The '96 was a bit of elation of, you know, getting that far, and that was the first time as a quartet we really faced a big, you know, it was an Olympic. So to get a silver medal, the first time we've all really competed together, you know, was a tall order, and we pulled out the bag. We all had amazing races. We all had amazing individual runs, and I couldn't have really asked more. You know, we always want to go for gold, right? Nobody wants a silver. Nobody ever wants to come fourth. You all want to get on the rostrum, right? So, you know, we all know that. So, yeah, as a sportsman, I wanted to win. And as a competitor, I wanted to win. But being realistic, I'm a realist as well, it was a tall order. Whereas in '97, we're better than these. You know, in the warm-up, we had that slight arrogance, you know, that slight sort of, not arrogance as in cockiness, but we had that sort of assertiveness of we can do this today. And I remember we were all staring at each other, and it was a different vibe. We went out for blood that year, and yeah, we'll come on to that later on with how it transpired. But yeah, 96, I'm happy with that medal. 97, definitely not happy with that one.
I just final word on 96, going back to it. I wonder, you talked about the ethos of being in an Olympic team and the swimmers and what have you. Was there added pressure and expectation on you guys? Because Britain had an awful games overall. I think we'd had the one gold medal from Redgrave and Pinsent. There'd been no track gold medals, which was the first time for as long as I can remember. And you guys were actually the last track event on the last day of the Olympics. And it was almost like a please guys, just go pull something out for us. I remember it was hit desperate stage by then. Still almost out of awful games. Were you aware of that going in, or were you able to keep within your own bubble, or did that weigh?
Yeah, no, we were aware of it, but as an athlete, you deal with pressure, and you definitely deal with outside pressure. I wasn't really interested in what other people thought. It was about what I need to do, and the same went for Roger, you, and Mark. Pressure every time you step on the track. As soon as you put yourself on that line in front of millions of people on TV, you just got to switch off and not ignore it. So that was fine. I could deal with that, and we could all deal with that. The only thing I suppose I'm disappointed in 96, it would have been nice to have got a gold, maybe a gold letterbox. You know what I mean? No disrespect to those people in 2012, because well done. But I mean, it was stupid amounts of medals. I think every post box is gold in certain areas, and and this isn't a bittersweet thing. This is just me being genuine. I think what we achieved then, without having the same sort of funding and the same backing and the same all the same which all the athletes have had, the modern day athlete, if you want to call it that, I think that enough wasn't really celebrated after the Olympics, especially with us being few and far between medalists, so for me, and it's not that I'm aggrieved by it. I'm not, I'm really cool with, my life's great, but I just think, no, that was more of an achievement back then than people really realize, and I think that should have been celebrated a bit more due to the fact that nobody won medals. I think we should have been put a little bit more on a higher stick. And like I said, not because I'm like, poor me. No, because it's not. My life is cool. But I just think sport has come on so much since then. And I think, the modern day athlete needs to take homage to, our era as well. I feel very lucky that I was in that golden era of athletics. Would I want to do it now? No. I loved my lot then. Like you said, 5 channels on TV. You couldn't help but watch us. I mean, you get people on Love Island who've got millions of followers, and you've got somebody like Jay Jones, who's an amazing taekwondo athlete, who's got 50,000 followers, and you think, really? So I'm glad that I'm not in sport these days, if I'm honest.
It was, and I mean, if you go back to 96, saying you were 23 years of age, and I think that was you coming to the public view, although you obviously would have been known well within the athletics world, but being on primetime TV, being in the Olympics, and then from there on, you competed in so many games, and World Championships, Commonwealth Games, and were regular in the medals. You must have become sort of a household name at the time then, and sort of did your life change after that with being recognised everywhere? And
yeah, it did actually. Okay, I've shaved my hair off now because I was starting to get a little bit. It was starting to get a bit thin, so I went, "It's gone. I'm shaving it right off." Because I had the blonde dreadlocks at the time. I was labelled the Flying Pineapple. I mean, in ’97, I believe it was, I beat David Beckham to the Best Hairstyle of the Year award. I think that's one of my biggest accolades in my career. Because at the time, David Beckham was huge, man, and I was just like, I've beaten him or something. I was kind of, and I'll never forget, after 96, we went to 10 Downing Street with the medals, and I remember Paul Ince was in there. You had the boxer, oh my God, the big Frank Bruno. You had Gaza, and you had all these people, what I deemed to be really famous people. And I'm in 10 Downing Street with John Major and all them lot. And I'm looking, going, wow, look at all these famous celebrities, right? And Lennox Lewis and all these were in there. And this is when I thought, I must be like sort of a household name, because I had Frank Bruno come up to me asking me for my autograph. And then I had Gaza come up to me 10 minutes later, go, "Oh yeah, you're a great athlete. Can I have your autograph?" And I was like, "What, me? You're Gazza?" Like in my head, I was acting cool, but I was like, "Wow!" Like, it was a couple of years after that. It was in '99. I was at the British Sports Personality of the Year, and I could hear somebody going, "Jamie, Jamie, Jamie," shouting. Like, "Who the hell's this shouting at me now?" I looked over 10 meters away, like this, waving like this. It was Ryan Giggs, and he was stood next to David Beckham. And I remember going, and I'd never met Ryan before then. I remember going, "Wow, this is Ryan Giggs." And he's calling me over, and I went up to him. I goes, "Hey, Ryan, how are you, mate?" He went, yeah. He goes, "Oh, let me introduce you to David." And I'm just like going, "What the hell?" Like, that's been the oddest part when you meet these celebrities and who you do, or sportsmen or women or musicians or film stars, and they come up to you saying, "Oh, I love watching you run, and you run with so much ambition, and you give it, you're courageous." And I'm just going, "I just watched you in a movie only last week." It's kind of, that's the weird part. And I liked it. It's nice. I still get it to this day, so it is quite nice.
Yeah, that's got to be awesome, really. You just going back a little bit, as you touched on there with the Olympics and what you achieved, and perhaps that you overachieved, or in the circumstances where you were against a massive country like America as well, which has got so much resources. What sort of state was the athletics world in then? As in, today now I'd imagine you've got all these camps, and you've got the sports scientists, and you've got nutritionists, you've got everything like that. Was that '96 at the Olympics and throughout your career? Was that there to that extent?
No, not at all. They started it halfway through my career to the back end of my career, doing it, lottery grants, etc. But we were the frontiers of it, really. So my coach in '96 was Colin Jackson. In that training group was, just to reel off a couple of names, Colin Jackson, Linford Christie, John Regis, Frankie Fredericks, Merlin Ottey, Darren Campbell, Darren Braithwaite. God, I'm missing Catherine Mary. I'm reeling off a couple of names. Everyone in that group was either Olympic bronze medalist right through to gold medalist. 99% of us were a medalist. I mean, we were in a super group. And I don't mean just a British super group. I mean, Frankie Fredericks, one of the greatest sprinters ever from Namibia. We were in Merlin Ottey, one of the fastest female sprinters from Jamaica ever. I was in a group which we almost had our own sort of support system. If we got injured, we'd go to Dr. Müller-Wohlfahrt in Germany, who used to look after the Bayern Munich football team and the German football team. 20 years later, you'd get Usain Bolt seeing the same person. We sort of had our own nucleus of, how can I put it, expertise, really, which came from us being so successful as a group. So I think all the model which you're seeing now was based on what we did, because some of the coaches and some of the people in UK athletics and other sports sort of like looked at how we did it, questioned how we were all so good, and they modeled themselves off us. I don't think that's been documented, but I know that we were definitely the leaders and the forefathers of founders of this sort of nucleus of eliteness. So I feel quite privileged and proud to have been in such an amazing group. Yeah,
it's awesome. It's interesting to hear that, because when you look back at it and you look at what the athletics was like, and and watching that, the Olympics there, you expect it to all be like it is today, really. That sort of togetherness, team, and the effort put in, and you realise the difficulty that perhaps those early sort of athletes had. And say early, we're only talking 20 years ago, but how different things have changed, like,
Oh, yeah, no, 100%,
Yeah, but, it's just, you got going through then, obviously your career after that, but if we just take a step back, obviously I just wanted to go in at the Olympics, where did you sort of come from as in the way of your athletics, and sporting background, as in, was it through schools, was it through clubs, was it through other sports? Did you fall into athletics, or how did that all come about?
Well, when I was 10 years old, or under 10s it was, I used to play football. One of my sports I'm rubbish at is football. give me a rugby ball, I'm pretty tasty. Give me a tennis racket, I'm good. Give me a swim, I can beat most people. Do you know what I mean? I'm quite a talented all-rounder, and I was always pretty good at most sports, you know. I was that kid who used to really do everyone's head in, like, just jump high and throw far, and, you know, and even though I was very small for my age, I was quite, you know, quite unique really in that. And it was in sports day when I was 11 years old. It was in my final year of juniors, really, that I won this obstacle race in school, right? Pick up the egg and spoon, go over a wooden bench, into the saddle of that, and do all this crazy stuff, right? And I literally went twice as fast as every kid, because almost at the end of the race, you had to go through this sort of like this mattress and go, and you couldn't see where you were going. And my headmaster goes, Jamie, go back to the start. So I had to run all the way back to the start, pick up the egg and spoon over the wooden bench, into the saddle of that, underneath the craftsman. I sprinted hard to the finish, and I ended up winning the race. So I literally went twice as fast as every kid. And, you know, that's unheard of. Like, you know, that didn't happen. And my headmaster was a runner, and he said, look, I think you should join a running club. You're very good. Why don't you come down to Newport Harriers next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock? And my mum and my granddad took me down that first time I ever went there. And suddenly I was introduced to the world of athletics, looking at all these people training, and you know, they all had these club vests on. They all had the latest Shell suit, because they weren't even a tracksuit then, they were Shell suits, you know. And I was just like, wow, you know, this is amazing. And you know, I started off doing okay, got my butt kicked left, right, and centre, because like I said, I was really small. But I was very good for my size. Do you know what I mean? And it was when I got to 15. So I'd been training for 4 or 5 years. When I got to 15, I suddenly, when I, you know, started getting the beard or whatever, or 16, 17, I started, you know, maturing. That's when it all came to play. And I got as strong as, you know, you always had that one kid who was 12 years old who looked 18, you know what I mean? You'll always remember the kid in school. It might be, you guys might have been one of those kids, I don't know, right? But there was always this one kid. Okay, yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, hello, like, you know. And so that kid would always beat me because he had the strength, do you know what I mean? And so, you know, for me, in the end, I ended up getting better than those people because I matured and suddenly got that much better. So, yeah, it was all good. Yeah, it was all good.
And how did it come about that the 400 metres became your specialist event, Jem? Were you one of those who came down in distance for the 4, or were you one of those that realised you weren't maybe at the speed of 100 or 200 and went up?
So my background was really the 100 and 200 metres, and I ended up winning the World Junior Championships in Seoul. We broke the world record, myself, Darren Campbell, Alan Condon and Jason Fergus, beating the Americans in the 4x100 metres. So when I was 18 years old. And when Colin Jackson started to coach me in 94, after the Commonwealth Games, and he was coaching me for the 100 and 200 metres, of which in 95 I broke my PBs. Yeah. And I ended up doing a 400 metre relay in a British league in Cardiff as a bit of a joke. And I ended up like running some crazy time. I ran a 45 flat relay leg in a British league, because the person who was watching that race, he said to me, he was the British coach for sprints, and he said, James, if you have a really good relay leg, we may consider to get you to run in the European Championships. So I thought, flipping heck, I'm up for that. So I ended up clearing this relay split, ended up running 45 flat, which was unheard of in a British league. And he said, oh, we may consider you after that. Anyway, they didn't pick me, which I was really annoyed about, but they ended up picking me for an under-23s race in Narbonne in France. And I ran the 400 metres there. In my first proper 400 metres, broke the Welsh record in 45.4 and ran a 44.3 relay leg. And everyone was like, Jamie's on the map. And my first race then against real competitive people, even though that was a big race, was against Roger Black, Mark Richards and all the boys. And I ended up beating them all. So they were like, what the hell? You know, and that was it. The rest is history. I ended up staying in that event. I wouldn't choose to do the 400 meters because it's horrible. It's not the race which hurts, it's the training which goes into it, which people just don't get. You know, I often get people saying, "Oh, do you reckon, you're in shape now? Do you reckon you could run around the track?" I was like, "Hell no! I couldn't even run 50 meters of it." I mean, it's insane. The 400 meters is a really stupid event, because you've got to run flat out. Or I used to run 10.1 down the back straight of a 400 meters, 10.1 for 100 meters.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
Describe what working with Colin Jackson was like, because you touched upon earlier there was a lot less science and guidance perhaps in your era as to what there is now. I mean, all of sport is less scientific, let's face it. But then again, Colin Jackson was almost ahead of his time in terms of his round-the-clock dedication to be. I once heard a story. You might be able to confirm this either way. Now, I've always wondered if it's true. If Colin Jackson was thirsty, he'd suck raw carrot and get the juice out of that to prevent him bloating from drinking too much water. Now, I don't know if that's truth, but he certainly had that round-the-clock absolute dedication to athletics, didn't he?
Well, that wouldn't surprise me if that story is true. I haven't heard of it before, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the guy back then, the guy now is a complete genius. I mean, I've never met anyone so dedicated to their sport like Colin. I mean, the guy is just, even now, look, he's a BBC commentator. He's squeaky clean. He's just a true and all out professional. I mean, Colin has still got that sort of aloofness from what he had back then to now. He's very approachable, but he's almost got that unapproachable sort of thing. Oh my God, it's Colin Jackson, And in '94 at the Commonwealth Games in Canada, I was in his room with another athlete called Paul Gray, who's a lovely guy, Commonwealth Games bronze medal hurdler.
Yeah.
And Colin said, would you like me to coach you? What, me? Yeah, he said. And you've got to remember, in '93, he broke the world record and won the world championship. And in '94, a year after that, he's saying, would you like me to coach you? And I'm like, wow. And he said, I've got a house in Florida. You can come and live with me and a couple of the athletes in Florida, blah, blah, blah. I told my mum and dad, I'm there, I'm on the plane. So for 6 months of the year, I was living with Colin, with Paul Gray, with people like Linford Christie, Frankie Fredericks, Mark McCoy, etc., in this house in America, which Colin owned when he was 27 years old, swimming pool, the whole works. And they say success breeds success. And, when you get into a group like that, you can't help but become successful. But, I love Colin a lot because he must have spent 40 grand on me. Within a 2-year period, he flew me out business class to his house. I didn't pay for anything. So he was almost like my lottery ticket, back what they got now, the lottery. And, where all the athletes are on. And, I'm internally grateful to the guy. And I regularly tell people when this story comes up, I say that, if it weren't for him, would I have got my Olympic medals? And, my world medals, possibly, but I think it would have been that much harder. So, the guy's just a phenomenal guy.
I mean, and again, on your medals there, your Olympic Games, your World Championships medals, on the outdoor thing, they came in the 4x4, obviously the relay. As an individual, it's fair to say your greatest success came indoor than it did on the outdoor track. You world indoor champion, if I've got that right, over 400 meters. Was that coincidence? Was that a preference of yours?
Yeah, so I regularly get asked this sort of question, is because people go, the indoors for shorter people, which I disagree with, because if you look at some of the world records, they're done by, some people who are over 6 foot. The one thing I loved about running indoors, and the one reason I loved the relay, is because I love chasing people. Right? It sounds daft as it is, but when you run the 400 meters, you run around that track all in lanes, and it's like a controlled sprint. And I mean, whereas when I was running the relay, it may be a person 2 meters ahead of me, 10 meters ahead of me, and I used to love gunning them down. The same goes for the indoors. I used to love gunning the person in front of me down, and it was almost like a bit of fun, and that's my nature. I'm a fun person. I like to have a laugh or whatever, and I think the indoors and the relay sort of brought out my personality, which I thought was fantastic, and I really, really loved,
So the 99 indoor gold, wasn't it? You were 97, you were the silver medalist world indoor, if I remember that rightly, then 99 the gold. So where does, because indoor doesn't get the same exposure as outdoor athletics, it never has, but where does that rank in your career, that gold medal? Because a world title is still a world title, isn't it?
Yeah. Winning the world championships is a mean feat. You know, it's not many people who've won world championships. You know what I mean? To me, you know, so in '97, I ended up coming second in the world indoor championships in Paris. I should have won it. Even people like Michael Johnson were, you know, the American news were chatting to Michael saying, "Hey, how do you feel about Jamie?" And he was going, "He's good. He's got some skills," like, you know. And that was quite good homage, really, from somebody, one of the greatest athletes ever, giving you that sort of respect.
Sure.
And I got to the World Championship final. I messed up. You know, I really messed up. You know, I should have won it. I won every other race there was to win indoors. I did. That was the only race I lost, and I came second in the World Champs. And it was really funny in '97. I ended up, you know, coming off the track. The BBC were like, "Hey, so how do you feel?" And I could feel this sort of energy of they didn't know what to say to me, and I didn't really know what to say to them. I was disappointed. Then I met my mum and dad, and I could see that they gave me a hug, but I could feel this sort of, "Oh, are you okay?" You know, everyone was sort of like trying to act cool around me, but I could equally see that people were feeling a bit weird about it. And obviously I was upset about it. And I ended up going home that day. I flew home from Paris with Colin, went back to my apartment, and I remember holding my world championship silver medal like this. And I was looking at it, it's a world championship medal. We're in a county championships medal, or a Welsh or British or European, it's world. And I remember looking at it thinking, God damn it, this is a world medal here. And I remember thinking there's doctors, nurses, teachers, and all these people out there who are far more important than me. You know what I mean? Like, and I suddenly laughed. I went, "Oh, you know, I run around the track for a living." And I thought, it's not really that important. You know what I mean? It's just fun, and I get paid to do it. And within 20 minutes, I realized how unimportant athletics was. And what I mean by that is, it's not life-saving. I make people happy for fun, you know what I mean? And that's it. And I remember thinking at the time, I went, well, if I keep adopting that attitude that it's fun, I've got an opportunity in 2 years to kick everyone's butt. And 2 years later, I ended up going, okay, here's my opportunity to do it. And I trained my butt off, and it was. And I'll tell you how I won the World Championships, right? It's two things, right? It's really important to say. So my last training session was in Australia, and I did 4 100-meter runs with Frankie Fredericks. And Frankie Fredericks had only just ran 19.9 or 19.8 or something in Australia. He was the fastest human being in the world in February, running 19 point, right? I mean, that was crazy. Nobody runs 19 seconds for the 200 meters in February. So we had this training session together. We didn't have any tops on. We just had shorts on. It was boiling hot, 30 degrees. Me and him on a running track. The first one, good pace. Second one, faster. Third one, last one, flat out. So the first one, we must have run about 10.8. The second one, my PB for 100 meters is 10.5, by the way. The second one would have been in about 10.6. We got to the third one, and I thought, I got to run pretty fast now to keep up with this guy. And we must have run about 10.3. So that would have been me, as you would have thought, flat out. The last one, we walked back, recovery, got ourselves ready, and Frankie turned to me and he said, I'm going to go flat out on this one. Frankie's flat out is 9 point for the 100 meters, right? And he was in 9 point shape. So I'm there on this running track with Frankie Fredericks, most probably one of the greatest athletes before Usain Bolt's time ever. The most talented athlete I ever run against. And I think he's even better than Michael Johnson, even though times don't tell. But I think he's the most talented guy I ever trained with or ran with. We went for it, and I'm running up the track, just me and him, no times on us, nobody clocking it. And I'm running like this, and we cross the line. He beats me by about this much. And I was like, oh my God. I must have run 10 flat. And I swear to God, I would have run 10 flat that day. I felt amazing. And I said to myself, if Frankie Fredericks can only beat me by this much over 100 meters, how on earth is anyone going to beat me over the 400 meters? So that means I'm most probably the second fastest human being on the planet over the sprint. You know what I mean? My mindset was like just triggered. And so I went to that competition going, I'm amazing. I feel great. I had no worries. And then to really seal the deal, right? To really seal the deal. And like I said, I'm 5'8" from Wales, like Shrek, Lord Farquhar. I'm a short guy, right? Everyone's 6'1", 6'2", muscles, American, this and that. Some of them might have been taking drugs, who knows, right? And we got to the final and I got to the final of the World Champs, and I thought I'm the best. It was it weren't nothing in my head going, oh, I'm not sure. So no, I weren't nervous at all. And I thought, let me seal the deal to prove to everyone I'm the best in the world. So before you go onto a running track, you go on you do your warm-up runs, yeah? So you don't see this off TV, you know, you don't see it, you only see the race. So it was an American guy about 30 meters ahead of me doing his high knee drills, yeah? You know, all the running drills, you see all the athletes doing. He's doing these high knee drills, and he's in lane 4. And I get in his lane, he's 6'2", I'm 5'8", he's ripped, I'm stocky and short. If we had to go toe to toe, he might most probably would hurt me, right? But I got in his lane and I started doing high knees towards him. I had some serious rap music playing on my headphones. And as we got closer and closer and closer and closer, he got out of my way. And I laughed and I went, I got you. And I went, the reason he got out of my way is because he respected me more than I respected him. So I went, I've beaten you. I've got in your head. I went, where's the Jamaican, like that? And I went in the Jamaican's lane. I did the same thing. Got closer and closer and closer. He got out of my way. I did it to everyone in my race. And so by the time I was on the line, I was like, I've got this. Winning that World Championships was like winning the Gwent Championships. It was the easiest run in my career. The guys behind me, I felt, were chumps. Do you know what I mean? They were the fastest athletes on the planet. But if you ever watch the video, after we've done this, just go on YouTube and type in Jamie Baulch 400 meters World Champ fan. You see me with, I've run 170 meters and I'm last. And the reason I didn't panic is because I went, Frankie Fredericks, I'm the second fastest athlete in the planet. Whoa, when I needed to put on the burners and push and press, I knew I could go past everyone. So when I actually crossed the line, I went, oh my God, I've won the World Champs, right? And it was I won it easily as well. I wasn't even on the dip, it was easy. But the best moment in my athletics career, the best moment by far, forget the Olympic medal, forget me winning the World Champs, is I ended up doing the lap of honor. Yeah, you know what you do. I ended up ringing my dad, right? Because my dad and my mum unfortunately couldn't make that when he was in Japan. And I phoned up my dad and I said, Dad, your son is world champion. And my dad cried down the phone. And to me, that is the best moment, to make your father so proud of you. You know, I'm adopted, you know, like my dad's my dad, my mum's my dad, my mum's my mum. These guys have supported me throughout all my career. So for my dad to cry down the phone, that was my gold medal, because he is so proud of his son that he's achieved I've achieved my dreams, which in turn will have achieved my father's dreams, you know. And every now and then we talk about it and he goes, oh, shut up, son. Remember when I had you crying? So my dad doesn't cry over anything. So I think that was my moment. And, you know, I feel really pleased I've managed to do that in my lifetime, you know.
I mean, that's fascinating, that is. And, you know, to hear how you come back from the disappointment, you know, finishing second in the World Champs to going back and doing that. Because, you know, I think last week we had Simon Roach on, who's a Welsh weightlifting coach with the Commonwealth Games. He's been to 4 of them. And, you know, that was one of the questions we asked is when you go to these events, same for yourself, and things just don't go wrong. You could be on fire, and that moment on the big set, you fail. And it's really interesting to say that, you know, you went back, you looked at a medal, you know, you felt sorry for yourself for 20 minutes or so, and then you thought, right, that's put behind me, and then I'll move on from there, and I'll get better from it. And I mean, I suppose that's what it's that sort of reaction that people have, what creates champions, isn't it? And creates people to go forward. And that's got to be the same in anything in life, really. That sort of attitude.
You know, the thing is, what I learned, and it's the same goes for business as well. Like, this is the truth, right? Nobody cares about anyone else, right? And, you know, my mum and dad love me. My partner loves me. My kids love me. And I love them, right? What I mean about nobody really cares, what my point is what I'm saying. Of course, everyone cares, but there's, when I came second in that World Championships, I went on the plane with Colin. I was obviously upset. My mum and dad caught a flight about 4 hours later. And I know that my mum and dad, who unconditionally loved me, they would have been getting through the passport control. My mum would have most probably forgotten the passports. And my dad, where's the passport? And they would have had a little bit of So my point is life goes on. The trouble is with sportsmen and women and people in business or whatever, they all get wrapped up in their own ego and they think that everyone cares and everyone's looking at me and me. What I did in 99 that day was a great moment, but the next day would have been on to the next. When I came second in that World Championship, I was the only person who got upset by it, really. My mum and dad who loved me would have just gone, oh, that's real shame. And they would have gone on about their own business, Like you hear of these, iconic stars which have passed away, like the Michael Jacksons and the Princes and all that, the big, George Michaels, we hear that, George Michaels passed away on Christmas Day. You all go, oh my God, that's horrific. I can't believe it. And then the next minute you're going, pass me the turkey.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? So, if sports people could just recognize that nobody really cares. Where's the pressure? You take all the pressure off yourself because who cares? And I managed very luckily to understand that whilst I was competing. I mean, like a lot of people don't. I'll use a rugby player analogy. You've got Alex Cuthbert, great player, but then the pressure stuff, he kept missing the ball, and suddenly the papers are writing about him. Suddenly he was feeling all this pressure, and that's what happens. It goes downhill because people, they get too wrapped up in their own selves. And I think if you can take yourself out of yourself and just go, really, I'm just chucking a rugby ball around the pitch for Wales, just enjoy it while you've got the opportunity. And I think if I look at, I'll use Shane, I'll use rugby as an analogy because it's Welsh and it's local. Shane Williams, he had great moments in his career. He had massive dips in his career. And in most probably the last 4 years of his career, he had the greatest, he played the best I've ever seen him play because he was having a laugh. Like, you look at any sportsman and woman who are really doing well on the field, Usain Bolt, Mo Farah, they're all smiling. The tennis players. As soon as you start taking it too serious, the wheels fall off. So it's all about having fun. Sports about having fun. Life's about having fun because we're not going to be here forever. Just have a laugh and give it your best.
That's very
brings
true.
us on to Jamie. You've spoken about the pressures of sport, and unfortunately, there's no avoiding it. In some sports, athletics has been one of them. Those pressures to perform have led to to drug abuse over a series of decades. And that brings us firstly on, we'll start with 97, which obviously the most one for you, and the Antonio Pettigrew allegations which were later proven, which ultimately won you a gold medal. How do you feel about that now, about him as well? Don't hold back your personal feelings on him because he denied you the great on-track moment. It's never the same. The achievement on paper is the same, but the moment can never be created. And how anticlimactic was it to receive the medal in whatever manner you did?
Yeah, we should have won it that day. We were disappointed on the roster.
Sorry, Jamie. Firstly, just clarify how many years later.
So basically, we got upgraded to the gold medal 13 years later.
13 years later, right?
13, and the gold medal we received were just rubbish. They weren't even the same medals as what we would have been given back 30 years before. They were just. They look like chocolate coins, the chocolate coin you get at Christmas. They were bad, man. If I could, I don't even know where it is. That's how bad it is, right? I genuinely don't know where to put it.
I heard the interview with you and Thomas, which said the World Championship gold medal he dreamed of was handed over in a car park at a service station, just outside Bristol, I think.
It pretty much was that. I mean, they did a bit of a celebration for me, you and down at the Senate. In Cardiff, which was nice. Roger Black and Mark Richardson got their medals given to them in a post, DHL or whatever. You just think really. And, you know, I remember getting my gold medal presented to me down the Senedd, and it was a nice little thing. And then British athletics or Welsh athletics came up to me and goes, oh, by the way, you've been upgraded to the silver medal in the world indoors for the relay. And they just gave me a box with another medal with a silver. And I went, really, guys? I said, this is how you're giving medals out? You know, you're giving them just like this? I went, really? I mean, so going back to the Antonio Pettigrew, I mean, let's just say, I'll say it bluntly, the guy's committed suicide. You know, on the back end of that, left a young family. Really, was it worth it? You know what I mean? Like, is it worth it? At the end of the day, is it worth it? Yes, I understand. You win gold medals, you get paid. You win gold medals, you get paid some really good money. You come second or third, you don't get it. You don't get on the roster, you definitely don't get it. So I understand there's pressures to support your family. I know all about that, just like any other athlete. But, you know, I've been brought up by my mum and dad, you know, to do things properly. If you're not going to win the race, then that's it. You know, there's always going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be somebody else putting more effort in than you. And, you know, for me on the drugs level, you know, when I won that world indoors, I've got no doubt somebody behind me actually was taking drugs. You know,
Did you wonder that at the time? Were you wondering at the time? Was there any area?
Yeah, you know it, but I never let it over. You know, I never really let it upset me, because it was what it was. In fact, I love the fact that I've got 13 medals in my cabinet, wherever they are. I say my cabinet, wherever they are. I've got 13 medals from European up to world medals. And I know I've done it honestly. And that's why when I won the world championships, and I said, your son's world champion, to my dad, and he cried, you know, that's bigger than any medal, you know. Yeah. It's like I can walk around Wales or around Britain or anywhere in the world, and I'm like, what? You know, I was the best at some point, and I was the best in a world which was riddled in drugs, and I, you know, even though it's not a good thing and it's not a nice thing that I've had to endure that. That's life, you know. Even in business now, you know, you give it your best effort, you give it your best shot, and you get some guy who's senior management going no, and you're like, really, mate? You know, you're always going to get setbacks in life. Nothing ever comes for free, and nothing ever gets given. You've got to go out there, and you know, my resilience, the reason I've got so many medals, and the reason I am the person I am today, and is because I'm so resilient. You know, you ask Linford Christie, Colin Jackson, ask any athlete in that training group, who's the craziest guy you ever ran with? And it was me. I would get beaten down to the floor and I would get back up, beaten down to the floor and get back up. And I was the smallest guy, but I was the hardest guy of mental. You know, I just wouldn't give up. And when I went to hospital the other day to have a scan because my chest was hurting a bit or whatever. And I went to the hospital and they had an X-ray, and he said, "Oh, can you breathe in?" and blah blah. And he gave me the results. He went, "Oh my God, your lungs are massive." I went, "Are they?" I never knew that until last week. And so, you know, I got surprised all the bloody air I've been puffing in and out over the years. But no, going back to the drugs thing, I mean, you know, Antonio's not here. Did he, you know, he's paid, you know, a crazy price for cheating.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, I'm so sad for him, and I'm so sad for his family. And you know what? If I could give my gold medal to him, I would, because it's not worth it. You know, just take what you've got. Be happy with what you've got. Don't always grumble if you haven't got it. And I'm one of these people, like, I've been knocked down so many times in life. I've been, you know, people have said no. People have said, you're too short. You're not going to make it. What do you know? How are you going to do it? And I always prove them wrong. I always prove those people wrong. And it's a life lesson, is nothing in life ever comes for free. And if you get it too easily, you don't appreciate it. You know, one thing I know for me, I appreciate every bloody day, you know, because you're not here forever. And because of my graft and my ethics, you know, I appreciate it that much more, you know. That's what it said. So yeah, it's sad that we didn't get the gold at the time. I most probably missed out on about £1 million worth of endorsement after that race. So what? That's, you know, I'm doing all right anyway, and I'm happy with my lot.
Yeah, it's another great story there. Love that. Just going back to, obviously you're associated a lot with Cardiff. But Newport is where you grew up, and obviously you mentioned it was Newport Athletics Club that you first went to as well. And I'm just going to a total random question here now, because I see you obviously got a mutual friend. You went in school with Grant Whiteside, were you?
Oh, I know Grant. Yeah, I know Grant. God, I haven't seen him for years. We weren't in school together, but we went to Cumbran Athletic Stadium. He used to train there a lot, so I used to always see him down there. God, every Tuesday and Thursday night, whatever nights I used to go to. I see him on Instagram every now and then doing things, but I haven't seen him for a long time. But very good athlete he was. He never really made it. He didn't get to British or Olympic level, but very good grafter, good athlete, and an all-round lovely person. You know?
Yeah, he played rugby for Wales under 21s, I think it was. But obviously I know him through triathlons. I'm gonna. Because when you had your medal at the start, I was going to sit here with my Ironman medal on, but I thought, maybe your Olympic goal might just outweigh that.
Oh, I don't know about that. Just to do an Ironman, I think flipping heck, I admire it. Yeah.
But that's obviously Grant is big into that.
I got a Pendine 10K champion 1 year, so I held that up as well.
You've done well.
Not too inadequate.
But I was going to say, did you? Have you ever fancied that? Obviously, with Ironman down in Tenby, a lot of sportsmen have, from other sports have gone down there and done it. You mentioned that you were a good swimmer. Have you ever thought of doing anything? I know you've done the London Marathon.
I ran the London Marathon in 3 hours 50. My missus, Cheryl, wanted to do under 4 hours. She did 6 marathons before, never got under 4. And I went all arrogantly, I'll get you under 4, love. I'll do it. And we both ran 3 hours 50, which was great.
That's good.
I think if I pushed it, did a lot of training for it hard, I might have got 3:30 or whatever. But and for a sprinter, that's not a bad shout considering it's like what people don't realize. People on the street think a runner's a runner. If you can run, you can run. No, it's fast twitch, slow twitch. So for a sprinter, I was quite pleased to get in the 4. No, I would never in my wildest dreams would I ever do a triathlon. Would I ever do an Ironman? I think, well done. I think you're all crazy, but well done. And the reason for it, I am a good swimmer and I can cycle. I've cycled from Boston to New York and Yosemite National Park to the Golden Gate Bridge, 500 kilometers. So I can do it. I could do all 3 disciplines. But you know what? I'm over that sort of competitiveness. I've left it there. I don't need to prove anything to anyone. And the trouble is, everyone wants to kick my butt. You know what I mean? Everyone's, I beat Jamie. I did a couple of park runs, and I'm doing them just for a laugh. And everyone, I beat Jamie. And I'm on Twitter when I get back, and they say, I beat Jamie. I'm thinking, I don't really want to have to wear a mask when I'm doing, a Batman mask park run. But so the thing is, I don't like about triathlon or thing, which not don't like, but which would put me off, is the bloody swim. I don't fancy people beating. I'd be fighting with people. I couldn't stand somebody hitting me as I'm trying to get to that, go around the buoy or whatever. No, it just didn't. I respect people. One of my best mates, who used to, he is my best mate now, Matt Wintle. He does a lot of Ironman and all that. He works for Admiral Insurance, absolutely loves it. And I was the one who sort of got him into the cycling part of it, and he loves it now. So I admire people for doing it, but no, not for me. It's too cold.
Yeah.
I'm half Jamaican. I think it's too cold. Black people don't like going in water. That's my excuse.
I was going to say that, obviously, you've touched on your parents and you've grown up. I remember a few years ago, randomly putting, the telly on, and there was a documentary that your documentary was on. I thought I'll watch that. Probably about 5-6 years ago now. Really, was it? It was.
2014.
It's one of those things that you watch that it was in Search for My Birth Mother. One of those things that you watch, I thought, I remembered it forever. It's one of those things that you when you talk about things in a documentary, that comes back to you. Such a good program, and such a good insight to you. And I got to say, it was it was really good. I mean, is there anything you want to sort of touch on with that? That was
it was funny, right? Because I'm 47 now, so I would have been 41, 42 or whatever when I searched for my mum. I got 2 children. My oldest is 25 and my youngest is 17 now, 2 boys. And I didn't want to be on my gravestone, Jamie Baulch, the Olympic silver medalist and world champion, done, and a father, right? I didn't want that on my gravestone. I wanted to have a little bit more background on who I am, right? And I'd never asked my mum, Marilyn, who brought me up, my mum and dad who raised me. I never asked them about my birth and, my mum or my dad, because Marilyn and Alan, my mum and dad, who have raised me and stuff, well, they are my mum and dad. There is no other mother or father. So let me make that really clear. There's not. But I just wanted to just have a little bit of an insight and knowledge of who my birth mother and father were, because I wanted, I want my kids to have know a bit more about stuff than I did. So we ended up embarking on this documentary, and it was a fly on the wall documentary. It wasn't like Long Lost Families. It was a real time documentary. You didn't know what was coming next. It was nothing set up. It was a legit, proper, let's go for it doc. And it was great because I got to meet my birth mother, and through some strange circumstances, got to meet her. And crazily, she and unfortunately she had cancer, and they said in the doc that she only had 6 weeks to live. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrific. And I was obviously upset during that. And I got to meet her, and I got to meet my mother. And I'll tell you a little snippet which weren't on the documentary, because if you go on my website, jamiebaulch.com, and go into TV, you can get to watch it, and you see the second one. I got the 2 documentaries on it, but the one trying to meet my birth father. So it was one bit where I was about to meet my mum, and you think the Olympics is nerve-wracking, but when you're 41, 42 years old and you're getting to meet your mum for the first time, the Olympics was like county championships. You know what I mean? It was like nothing in relation to meeting my mother. And we didn't film this bit because I thought, no, it's me. It's my time. It's my moment to meet my mum. I didn't want that on camera. It's the only bit I thought I'm not interested. No, you're not having that private moment. So I ended up opening this door, and he went into this courtyard, and inside the courtyard, about 6-7 meters away, was my mother. And she was stood, like, sat down like this, looking up like this. And I went, shit, that's my mum. Like, wow. And can you imagine when I was walking towards her like this, and well, what do you say to your mum? Or how do you say hello to her? Nobody teaches you. So do you shake her hand formally? Do you give her a hug? Do you give her a kiss? Well, and in your head, it's all messed up because you're going, it's my mum, it's my mum, it's my mum, but it's not my mum because Marilyn's my mum, and all messed up. So the only thing I could do is give her a rugby tackle, right? So I literally speared her, right? I dived in and I grabbed her like this and rugby tackled her, not to the floor, but I sort of, and she ended up, the first thing she said to me was, Jamie. That was the first thing she said. And my mum and dad who've raised me, my name is James, right? And everyone calls me Jamie, right? So my name's James. My mum and dad call me James when I get told off, even now I'm in my 40s. But when my birth mother, when Teresa said Jamie, it broke me, because people don't know this, but my birth mother actually named me Jamie. So when I was adopted, before I was adopted, she actually named me Jamie. So when she called me Jamie, I went, oh my God, my mum's just called my name. Like, if she'd said, oh, Steve, I've missed you, I'd have been going, you sure, love? Like, what are you on about? Like, my name's Jamie. It would have been a bit weird. Because she actually went, Jamie. Like, tell you what, guys, it broke me. I mean, that was just I cried. I actually cried like a baby there. Like, she was crying, I was crying. She didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. And it was like a 10-minute moment of, wow, I'm back in my mother's arms. And it was just a really surreal moment. But so, like, it was weird. So I was at the Celtic Manor and doing all these sort of like amazing things with her, you know, and it was really special, some real like amazing moments. But one of the poignant things which has come from it, and I said this to when I first met her, I said, look, you haven't been there in my life, you know, you're not, you know, yes, my mum, but that relationship's not there, right? And I said to her, what's going to come of this is this documentary is going to show the world or the UK how amazing adoption can be and what can happen if a little boy or girl gets brought into a loving family, and what can happen. Because I am that person of, you know, winning the world champs, getting looked after by my adoptive parents who have given me a better life than if I had stayed with Teresa. So since that program, I've had a lot of people on the internet or whatever, and on social media contact me. But I've had about 7 people saying, because of the documentary, we've adopted people. And I remember I was in St. David's 2 in Cardiff 4 years ago, and I had some guy come up to me, Jamie, and he had a little kid next to him, and he said, oh my God, your documentary was fantastic. I really love it. And it was amazing. And because of you, look, meet my son, whatever his name was. And I was just like, wow. And I had tears in my eyes straight away, the lump tears straight away. And I think to myself, you know, the legacy which my mum and dad have got is, we've made a couple of kids out there, X amount of kids who I'm not going to know or meet. We've made them into put them in a happier place, you know, and I feel very humbled by that. I feel very humbled that me and my mum could have done that documentary, and my birth, you know, and my mum and dad who've raised me were willing to do it because they're just amazing people. And, you know, the rest is history, really. So if I could have changed one person's life by doing that documentary, then great. I mean, I knew it was heartfelt when I had Sam Warburton and George North text me saying, I remember reading Sam's text. He went, oh my God, I've just watched a documentary and I've had to get loads of Kleenex out because I can't stop crying. You know, when you get Sam Warburton, the bloody British and Irish Lions coach and the Welsh, Lions captain and the Welsh rugby captain, saying that you've got a big man like that breaking down, I think, well, I must have hit a few chords here with a lot of people. So yeah, all in all, that documentary was great. All in all, it was just a fantastic opportunity to meet my birth mother, and now at least now I've got a little bit more history about who Jamie Baulch is, who I really am, sort of thing, you know. So it's great.
I can say having watched that, and you know, the feeling at the time of watching it, you know, I'm 100% sure you touched a lot of people, and especially, you know, sports people would have watched it, sports fans of yours would have watched it and thought, what a great story, like, you know, and really good for you personally. But I'm sure so many other people from within the adoption agency or people struggling to have children or whatever watching it thinking that is the way forward. And I mean, or even people thinking, should we make the decision? What should we do? You know, we've got an unwanted pregnancy. Yeah. What should we do? You know, there's other options there that people could have. So, you know, it makes, you know, maybe making that decision, you know,
definitely made a difference. It definitely, I know it would have made a little small dent into a positive, you know, I feel really proud about it. I love the program. I think that, you know, the documentary makers, Avanti, Justin, Emir, Connie, they were just fantastic people. So great to work with, and yeah, it worked out all right. It worked out all right.
Do you know, I'm sat in my kitchen at the moment, right? And I can see Emir's house from my kitchen. If I look over that roof there it's about a mile away, it's on the side of a mountain. He's got a place down in St. David's now.
That's right, yeah. He's got a couple of places down there, isn't he?
Yeah, he has, yeah. So, he's done a few of our events, actually. Yeah,
brilliant.
Out on the bike and stuff like that. So, yeah, good. But, yeah, that's. I mean, so prior to that, then, and going to that, did you know that your heritage was from, you know, half your heritage was from Jamaica as well, or did you know where it was from, or?
Yeah, I didn't have. I sort of knew, you know, because of my birth certificate, but I didn't really know anything, you know. Yeah. I just knew that my father was black or whatever, and that was it. And he was from Jamaica, and that was sort of pretty much it. Because that was what was written down back in 1973, which Teresa had given the you know, the authority sort of thing. So yeah, that was really. I did the second doc, and unfortunately didn't meet my father, which is a real shame. And I don't think I'll ever know who he is now, you know, or find out. And that's a shame, you know. I don't know. I got this little fairy story in my head that if my father knew I existed and knew it was me or whatever, and I showed him this, you know, I think he would be a proud man. Like, you know, I think he would be very proud. Thinking, flipping heck, I produced somebody who's got an Olympic medal. Like, you know, I remember when I was growing up, when I was like 10 years old, I genuinely thought Daley Thompson was my old man. Like, you know what I mean? And me and Daley, Colin Jackson and Lynn Davis did an event, and I actually said it to him. I said, on stage, right? And I turned to Daley and said, Daley, you know, and I told him the story. I genuinely thought you were my old man. And he turned to me very quickly. He said, what makes you think I'm not? And I just thought, brilliant comeback. So yeah, it was good. It was a good thing.
Just ask you, you know, whether you want to answer or not, but just that sort of having that life then, you know, sort of, you know, coming from where you come, you're adopted, and, you know, in the early 80s in South Wales or Newport, and you talked about, sorry, when you were training, and, you know, with all those guys and girls that you were training with, that you had tough mental strength, that, you know, you were the one that if you went down, you got back up and you kept on going as a fighter and stuff like that. Do you think it was, you know, what was it difficult for you growing up in sort of South Wales in those times? And
no. Did
you come across any sort of, you know, prejudice that made you have that inner strength to fight things off or to be self-resilient?
I not really. Like, I grew up in Risca in Rogerstone, you know, near Newport. Yes, yeah. I've always been a bit of a joker, right? I've always, like, I'm the laugh. What you see, you know, I'm 47 now. What you see with me now, yeah, and all that is how I used to be. You know, you can imagine when I was a teenager, even like really funny, charismatic, you know, always into stuff. And because of that behavior, because of the way I was and the way I am, I never really met any racism. I never really met any sort of, you know, it'd be a couple of quips here and there. But, you know, the person who, you know, was big in school would have a couple of digs as well, or the person who was skinny in school would have it, or the person with the ginger hair would get it, you know. So minor, very minor, you know, nothing to write home about where it scarred me or made me think, hang on a sec, I'm going to fight this person. You know, I never really had any problem. The reason for that is because I had such a big personality. I was one of the most popular kids, I suppose, in the year, if not even in the school. You know, everyone sort of knew me, sort of thing. And because of my popularity, I never had any backlash of any negativity. Do you know what I mean? I think if I had this sort of aggressive demeanor, maybe I could have been getting into a few scraps or whatever, but no, on scrapes and stuff. But no, I carried that through all the way through until I was a man, I suppose. And because of that, I was very lucky that I never really witnessed it. So, you know, one or two little comments, but I would soon pacify that, and that was it, really.
Obviously, Jamie, this is a very serious topic of conversation at the moment. You're moving more of the for black and ethnic minorities, not just in sport, all over, and the horrific scenes surrounding George Floyd's prompted sport to react.
Yeah.
Now, sport reacting has been met with feelings. I'll be honest, myself as a journalist, I'm quite critical of joining the Black Lives Matter movement, or being seen to join it if they're not actually going to tackle the problem at core. And what I mean by that is, you know, and people disagree with me, by here you see, for example, it's harsh to pick on Chelsea Football Club taking the knee the other week. Powerful gesture, don't get me wrong, and one rated around the world. The same Chelsea Football Club rank tribal a few years ago during the incident. Tribalism came over justice, and, you know, ultimately what John, captain Chelsea, did at the time was covered up, and it was you know, a pretty barbaric racist incident. What's your feeling looking at it when you see sport together like this? Do you think it's does it give you someone who's proud to be mixed race, or do you think more needs to be done? Do you see it as hypocritical? I know it's a difficult question to ask.
No. So, yeah, like I said, I haven't got a problem that you ask me. you know, it's all a little bit fake, isn't it? Right? You know,
Yeah.
the problem,
That's what I'm getting to.
yeah, it's all a bit fake. It's all like, oh, let's show that we're doing something, you know, let's jump on the bandwagon, you know, and to me, the problem lies, it's a deep problem, you know, and it's always been there, and it's proven that it's really badly there. I think America, it's got it really bad, and it's got, you know, some of the stuff you've seen since, you know, that instant, you think, wow, you know, it's, you know, I get sent stuff, and I'm not watching it. I don't want to watch it because I know it's there. It's there, and it needs to be tackled, but needs to be tackled properly. It shouldn't happen. We shouldn't tackle it after such an event. It should be tackled from the roof down. You know what I mean? You know, my personal thoughts are, I think, you know, Donald Trump. I mean, I call him Donald Chump. You know, because I just don't think he has got a clue. You know, you got this guy pretty much running the world. I mean, they're the most powerful nation, one of the, if not the most powerful nation in the world. And, you know, it's just Mickey Mouse. It's just Mickey Mouse, like, and it's comical to watch. You know, I don't know where to start with it, really, because I just think, you know, the hierarchy need to sort it out. You know, I think they really need to, you know, address it properly. There is a lot of racism still out there, which is bad. You know, I know it's come a long way forward from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. You know, it used to be a lot worse, and I'm not saying that it's great now, but it needs, you know, it needs to change. I mean, only the other month or the other year, the Me Too campaign, that was all huge. Now you don't hear so much about that. And I mean, I think the news.
Be Nice came.
Yeah. You know, I just think the news just like to talk about stuff, but they don't tackle it, you know, and I think it can be sorted, but will it? I doubt it. And I think it's going to be another instant, you know, again in the future, and we're going to all talk about it again, and it's all going to, you know, something else is going to be, you know, take over the controversy on the planet. And, you know, it's just, you know, I'll say it like this is, you know, we've had COVID. We've had thousands of people who've died from COVID, right? And everyone's locked themselves in their houses for the last 12 weeks or whatever it is, right? And then suddenly you're seeing people out on the street, all marching, all together, no 2 meter distancing. Everyone, you know, the thing which happened in Bristol the other day, like, and you're just like, really? Like, what, you know, so what, suddenly COVID's not important anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, yeah, let's do it. Oh, give me a hug. Yeah, we're all together. I'm like, hang on, what COVID's not important anymore? And that's what I'm saying, that the trouble with the media, yes, we're all talking about COVID still, and, you know, lockdown and all that to a degree, but, you know, people suddenly forgot the importance, you know, so that's the way of the world. And it disappoints me. It disappoints me, you know, that's the way the human race sort of is. I think we all need to be that little bit more humble. I think we need to all, you know, try and get on and, you know, be that little bit better towards each other, you know.
I agree with that 100% there, you know. And the stuff on social media, you're saying you try not to look at it. You know, you could find yourself looking on stuff, reading the comments, and next thing you know, you've wasted an hour and a half, and you're just feeling angry on it. What I rather do when I'm going to move on to, I'd rather be looking at your Instagram of you telling us how you lose some weight, like, you know, and be happy and be positive, like, you know. I think we've got to look at the positive stuff that's out there, and sort of, and, you know, yes, these issues need to be tackled, but we also need to look after our own sort of mental health about it all as well, really, isn't it? And sort of, and you know, and not get sucked into all these different agendas that, you know, fake news, as Donald Trump would say, like, you know,
well,
you know,
and it's just a joke, and you just think, you know, I understand the seriousness of it, right? I you know, it's not like I've misread it or anything. I get it, and I know, you know, being mixed race, you know, I'm, you know, may feel it more because, you know, people are thinking, oh, I wonder what Jamie, you know, this interview now, what's Jamie's thoughts, you know? But at the same time, I'm just like, let's sort it all out. Like, what are you know, what are we all doing here? Like, you know, and I just think I think things need to resolve, and but will they? Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, just we move on for that. I mean, just for personally, you said you're saddened by it, and that's the way I feel, because you think that I'm not like that as a person, and I'd like to think things have moved on from when I say to my kids, like, I got two boys, well, the youngest 17 and 20, and you say to them, when I was growing up, the TV would have this on, and the comedians would be like this, and they'd be inappropriate, and they, and that's, you grew up in that society, and it's so good that it's gone, and you think that it's gone, and living in a bubble that we live in West Wales, but then, it's not, and it saddens you then. It saddens you that people still feel like that, and that people still live in those, with prejudice.
It's definitely still there. It's just we just not choose to ignore it, but we just don't see it until something rises above the parapet, and then it's there again.
But just going on. So since you finished athletics, so you've done a fair few businesses. You're a businessman now, or entrepreneur, or so many sort of things there. So what are you actually doing at the moment, which takes up most of your time? I mean, I know you've got the memorabilia sort of company, the Authentic Sports. I've been to a few events where they've been there. But what else are you sort of doing to?
So my main thing now, which takes up a lot of my time, is Bid Aid, and Bid Aid is a silent auction company for charity events. We've managed to do it online now. We've just launched our sister company called You Win, which is a site which has got some great items on there, which is a donation site which you can donate from £10 right through to £1,000, and there's a trip on the end of it, and you could actually win it if you donate £10, or you could win it if you donate £1,000. So it's almost like a raffle site. So they've taken up a lot of my time. I started doing so you're talking in 2006. I started doing the official Welsh rugby memorabilia. So for about 10 years, I had the license to do Welsh rugby memorabilia, which nobody really knows I did. So all the signed rugby ball shirts, calendars, that was me producing that. And if you went onto the Welsh Rugby website, you'd be buying it from them, but really it was my company, white label, Welsh Rugby. Yeah. So very integral part of my business life. And then a few years later, I realized, well, the world doesn't revolve just around Welsh Rugby. So I ended up going into silent auctions and ended up doing all types of merchandise and memorabilia, of which we do pretty much everything from signed Stan Lee prints to James Bond prints to rugby prints, football, Muhammad Ali signed gloves, everything. And we're just about to launch in Germany and in Hong Kong now. So yeah, it's going really well. Very busy doing that, and I love it.
I mean, just going back to you mentioned rugby a few times. So if you were to have done a Nigel Walker, and come away from athletics into another sport, would it have been rugby or would it have been football? What would you have chosen?
Definitely rugby, and I think I could have been quite tasty, right? Like I genuinely believe that this was before the crazy, sizes of the George North.
You did play touch rugby for Wales, though, Jamie? Is that right?
Yeah, played touch rugby. We won the European champs in 2010 or something like that, whenever it was. And we beat England in the final, so that was quite nice. And I was pretty good at it. I didn't have the actual skill set of, some of the players on the pitch, but, I had the speed over pretty much most people. But yeah, I remember because Nigel Walker was my coach for a little bit. And I said to Nigel, I'm thinking about playing rugby. He went, Jamie, don't do it. They'll hurt you. And it put me off. And I went, all right. And I thought, I didn't want to, I was a bit old and, I did have that. I would like to have put on the red shirt for Wales and walk down the tunnel, jog down that tunnel. I love going to the rugby games. I'm a massive supporter of international rugby rather than club rugby. So I'm not a real supporter of rugby because I should have a club, but I do like going to the main games. And, I traveled to Ireland and England and France. The only place I haven't been is to Italy. But I've been everywhere else and, absolutely love it.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to have seen you on the rugby field. That'd have been something. But just before we I mean, because that era as well, I think when, just go back to that sort of area of your athletics when you were at your sort of prime there from, well, the late 90s was the cool Cymru area as well, wasn't it? Like, it's, Wales really had there was that buzz there, and they'd coined that phrase there, they had some good music scenes, some good films coming out.
Yeah.
The athletics field, like the athletics sort of, you had yourself, obviously Con Jackson was still competing there, you and Thomas.
Tim Malcolm, Tim Benjamin. Yeah, we had some great athletes back then,
Yeah, Wales went on a bit of after some disappointing rugby, in the late 90s, 99, they went on a good run as well, didn't they? So their world breaks and things. So yeah, that was looking back on that, it was a good time, and it was some, you're one of those faces of that sort of golden era, I think, of putting Wales on the map, really, for being a multi-sport, multi-talented area.
And of course, as a 4x4 team, you came very close in the Commonwealth Games with toppling England, didn't you? I think it was Matt just picked up the line there.
That's right. I still think we won that race. But
I thought you did at the time. I celebrated. Yeah,
well, I still genuinely think we won it, but it was in England, unfortunately, in Manchester, and they gave the England team the nod. But, the one thing I will say, I've been to Olympics, World Championships and European champs, and I would say the Commonwealth Games were my favourite competition because it was nothing like putting on the red vest of Wales. I mean, and kicking England's butt, like in the individuals and stuff. Yeah. And one of my favourite races is in the semi-final of the Commonwealth Games in 98 in, Kuala Lumpur, great race. Me and you and running 44 point, talking and laughing and giggling as we're running. So, great moment of sport. I love putting on that red vest.
John, that was a question I was going to ask you, and then I thought, I don't know, is it a bit of a silly question? What would come before for you? Is it Team GB or Wales, the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics? But obviously, the Commonwealth Games is a big thing too.
It sounds like kind of wrong, but Wales every day of the week. The Olympics obviously are the best sporting thing on the planet, but they're big. It's big. It's serious. Don't get me wrong. I had my fun a bit, but it's quite serious. With the Commonwealth Games, you felt a little bit chilled. I knew I was one of the best guys in the team. I mean, all sports. I was in that top 10%. Myself, Ewan, and then you might have had Nicole Cook in the cycling or whatever. I knew I was in that higher echelon of talent then, if you want to put it. I weren't just making up the numbers of the team. And, you would wear the red vest and you'd wear the tracksuit and you just feel great. I mean, it was nothing like going to a Commonwealth Games. Nothing like going to a Commonwealth Games. So, very good memories.
That's great to hear. As, it's obviously the passion of representing Wales. It's great. Look, finally from myself before I hand over to Fraser, are you doing any sort of, coaching of people yourselves? I know you always say, you've come on here, it's brilliant, that you're there to help people and you genuinely like helping people and speaking to people. And I see that on your Instagram, talking about the weight loss and everything. And so are you actually doing any sort of online coaching for people, or is it just sort of giving advice out as and when people add on ad hoc basis?
So it's a bit of giving advice out, but I've got a lot of people, like I weigh, like I said at the start of the interview, I weigh the same as what I weighed when I was 23 years old. I'm 47 now, and how have I done that? People just think it's difficult. It's not. It's whatever you consume, whatever you put in your mouth is however your body's going to look. And I train. I just go for walks each day. I train for about 30 minutes, 5 days a week. The rest is yoga, and the rest is what I put in my mouth. If you're going to drink 5 pints of Guinness on a weekend, and then on a Sunday drink a bottle of wine, and then have a white bread sandwich all week, what do you expect? So what I'm, why are you piling the pounds on? So what I am doing right now is I'm teaching people how to speed up their metabolisms when they're that little bit older, what to eat and when to eat. And people presume that it's difficult, and it's really not. It's taken me 6 months of generally slowly getting myself in better and better shape. and I don't eat, you know, like people just presume like, oh God, he can't be eating. He must be starving himself, having a cold salad, you know, with a half-boiled egg in. You know, that's what people think when they, oh, it's a diet. I don't believe in diets. Well, as soon as you say the word diet, that means you're not eating that much. And I just think it's awful. So I most probably eat more than you both, right? I eat, right? But it's knowing when to eat, what to eat, how to eat. And so, and that's it. And when to train and when not to train and when to rest. And, you know, it's not rocket science, but most of the planet doesn't know it. And when you've trained all your life to be fit and healthy, it is second nature to me. So all I'm doing is sort of doing what I used to do and telling maybe a girl or a guy down the road who's 2 stone, 3, 4, 5, 6 stone overweight. I'll go, all right, you've got to start somewhere. Let me start you doing this. You're not going to suddenly go on the Olympic rostrum day one. And they're slowly getting these people healthier and fitter. And, you know, over the last few months, I've managed to get a lot of people in better shape. And my ethos now in life, yes, I've got a very thriving business, but my ethos is, you know, your health is your wealth. And it doesn't matter how good your business is doing. If you're not in shape and you don't feel good, how long are you going to be around? And, you know, so to me, let's get people moving. Let's get people active. Let's get people active in their own relative, you know, levels, and let's make the world a bit of a healthier place. And that's really what it's all about. So I've got a lot of people doing a certain program, which I'm putting them on, which they're loving, which is just a part-time thing for me. It's not, I'm not into it every minute, but I'll promote it on my social media, because if I can make one person that little bit fitter by giving them that one piece of advice, then that's great, you know?
Yeah, it is good. So I do like watching it, you know, even just little updates, like you're going for a walk in the morning, like, you know, because you see that and you think, right, you know, I need to get up and get out and do this, like, you know, so it's all motivation of
yeah,
things, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you this one thing, right? So I got 2 people in particular, a woman called Cass and a guy called Phil, right? So the last 4 days, they've said, all right, Jane, get me locked in. I want to get fit and healthy. I'm like, all right, cool. First thing I want you to do is a fasted walk, which basically is a 3 mile walk, 5 kilometer walk, going at a certain pace, without breakfast. So you do it before breakfast, because what that does, it turns your, you utilize your body fat, but you retain your muscles, right? So you don't, if you go for a hard run in the morning, you're going to burn it, you know, it's a different energy source, and you end up, you know, losing weight, but you'll end up losing your muscle bulk as well. So I tell them to get on these fasted walks, right? So I was in bed yesterday, and there's this one woman called Cass, right? The only time she can do this walk is at 5:30 in the morning, because she's got work. And I said, well, look, if you can't do it, don't do it. You know, if it's too early, don't, you know, I'm not going to tell you to go out that time. But at times, I've gone out at 5:30 in the morning. So it's just a time at the end of the day. And another guy called Phil, he says, oh, I can do it at 7 in the morning. Anyway, I'm lying in bed yesterday, and I normally get up at 5:30, 6, 6:30, that sort of time generally. But yesterday I was lying in bed till 7:20. I just woke up late. It was great, you know, because it's not like, you know, it's not like I've got to get up. And I looked on my social media, and this one girl, Cass, had put on her timeline, I'm up 5:15. I've set my alarm because my mentor, Jamie Baulch, has told me to do it, and I'm on my fasted walk, right? Then I had another one called Phil saying the same sort of thing, and I was lying in bed. I felt guilty. And I went, I better get up myself and get on this morning walk. And, you know, the point of me telling you that story is I just saw there's 2 people who aren't in the best shape they want to be in, hence why they're doing it. And they don't even realize that they're kicking my butt. And I loved it. And I think if in a year's time I can have 100, 200, 300 people all doing the same thing, all trying to get healthy, and then telling their mates and tell their mates, and it ends up being a consortium of loads of people which are a little bit fitter than what they are now, then that's great.
Yeah, that was good. So just find on that. So, I mean, obviously, you say now you weigh the same as you had. Did you, you know, it's taken you about 6 months, you know, of living this lifestyle now. Had you put on a fair bit of weight after?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh, God. Yeah. When I retired from sport, I didn't turn into Ricky Hatton, put it that way, right? And I just hope Ricky doesn't see this, because I love you, Ricky, just in case he does see it. You know, I know him quite well. But I didn't pile it on like somebody like he did. And I basically, I'll never forget, it was my ex-partner's dad's house. We went over there one Christmas. And I always used to weigh 73 kgs, right? Always used to weigh 73, 74 kgs, roughly, always 73, 74. Winter or summer, it's always the same. And I went to her dad's house for Christmas, and they had a scale upstairs, right? And I just, let me just chuck myself on it just to see. I must be 76, right? I just didn't, and this was about a year after retirement, right? 83 kgs. I put on 10 kgs of body fat, no muscle. And I went, wow. And I don't know, when I saw it, I went downstairs, and this was the God's honest truth. I went, oh, your scales are way off upstairs. You need to fix them. I went home after, it was Christmas time, about 5-6 years ago. I went home and I went on mine. I went, oh my God, I put on 10 kg, you know? So like people look at me and they think, oh, you've always been in shape. No, I've been out of shape for me. I may not have been 10 stone overweight or 5 stone overweight, whatever some other people might be or whatever. But for me, I was out of shape. And so I've seen both spectrums, you know. I don't want people thinking, oh, you're the Olympian, of course. You've been, you know. No, I've been out of shape, you know. And, you know, it's for me to get back in shape hasn't been a battle. It's been very easy for me, if I'm honest. Just being a bit more sensible with my food intake, doing all the basics. And yeah, I love it. I love the fact that I'm 47 and I weigh the same. I feel quite proud of myself, you know.
No, it is good. It's awesome, and it's good to hear that as well. Yeah, it's just what you're saying. Like, doesn't matter if you're an Olympian or a professional sports person. You know, you all have those moments where you let things go, and then you've got to work hard to get back to it, haven't you? Or be disciplined.
Yeah,
be disciplined.
That's it.
Disciplined and consistent, I think, is the
that's the key, consistency.
Yeah. But so hey, before I finish on a little thing that I do is Fraser, have you got a
very quick one from me, Jamie. There's a lot more we could go into about your athletics career, and obviously we've touched on how things have changed since you were there, and obviously there's been a lot of scandals, and still one ongoing now, centering around Russia, which I hope is cleaned up for the better as soon as possible. But just a very, very quick question. Can you still, having been out of it for so long, having experienced that athlete, do you enjoy it as a fan? Do you still follow it intensely?
Yeah. I was there. I was very lucky. I got a job in 2012 to host alongside Ben Shepherd, the TV presenter, actually in the Olympic Stadium.
Right.
And my role there was to go on the big TVs in the Olympic Stadium and be a pundit, right? Yeah. And I was there. It must have been one of the most special moments, you know, that everyone loved 2012. And I was there for Super Saturday, etc. Usain Bolt, all the trimmings, and amazing time in my life. So yeah, I'm an actual fan of the sport again now. I don't like the gimmicky part of it. I don't like everyone coming out, and all the fireworks and this and that. And I don't like the people when they're doing this on their number, and they're in lane 1 and they end up coming last. I'm like going, mate, you need to focus on your running. The only person who could mess about was Usain Bolt, you know? And everyone sort of adopted that jokey attitude, and I think it's made the sport look a little bit Mickey Mouse-ish. You know, I think it's only the chosen few can mess about on the running line, but everyone's adopted. You know when you see Linford Christie race Carl Lewis racing, you know, whoever, they'd be like, and you'd be like, whoa, who's going to win this one? Like, but now when they're all going, yay, and it's fireworks, you're just watching going, really? Yeah. You don't really care for whoever wins or loses because you think they're all dickheads. Like, sorry, I shouldn't use that word, but that's the bottom line of it. You know, they're all making a mockery of themselves, and I think they need to stop showing off and messing about and focus and win the race, not do that, you know.
Make for good social media vines, though. Very important.
Yeah.
I'll pass over to Fintan to...
So what we'll do, just before we round things up, Jamie, is we do a lockdown, lowdown. So I'll ask you about 5 questions, give you 2 options, and you just pick your favourite. So, you know, as in, so... If we're going into obviously lockdown for another 3 weeks, and you had to give up social media or TV, what would it be?
It would be social media easily.
Yeah. Weights or cardio?
I would give up weights. Surprisingly, I wouldn't have said that to you a few months ago, but I love my fasting ball.
So you're going to take one album with you. Would it be the Phonics or the Manics? If we talk about Cool Cymru.
Oh, that's nasty. That's a nasty question being Welsh. If I was English, like I would have done none of them. But I can't say. You know what? I can't say because I know the guys. I just don't know where this is going out. You know what I mean? You never know they get abused.
You don't want to upset anyone.
Yeah.
So just a bit about the competing then. Indoor or outdoor in the competing?
Indoor. Yeah, I gotta say that because everyone knows me for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Relay or individual?
Relay.
Yeah. Football or rugby? I know the answer to this one.
I couldn't live without rugby. Football. I don't care for football at all.
And I know you're from Newport, but now I think you're in Cardiff. Is it Cardiff or Cardiff?
Cardiff, definitely Cardiff.
I have to ask that because I've
Cardiff, darling.
It's Cardiff, darling. Yeah, not Cardiff. Not like Mark Ring or something. Cardiff.
No.
All right. Well, I tell you what, Jamie, it's absolute. It's been brilliant chatting to you. So insightful, and thank you for your honesty and straight up and just saying it as it is. I've heard the thing we keep on hearing about, when we hear about people like yourself or yourself anyway, is how nice of a bloke you are and how honest and genuine you are, and it's just come across like that. And thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure.
If you are, once we get this and you can get yourself down to West Wales, come down and and we'll take you in the water. No, we'll. Hey,
I'll have a Guinness.
If you want to come down and have a little break with the family or anything like that, a few trips, nothing energetic, enjoy the scenery and everything like that, please come down and give us a shout.
All over it. I'll definitely take you up one. I love it down in West Wales.
And off camera, you can tell us Manics or Phonics then.
I know.
I do like the fact you've spoken honestly on drugs and athletics, your adoption growing up, black and ethnic minority problems in sport, but the one question you won't go near.
Yeah. The simplest question got me hooked and I'm stuck. Good point.
Thanks a lot, Jamie. Really appreciate your time.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot. Cheers, mate. All right.
No problem. Take care now. Bye-bye.